Bonnie, take it away.
All right. Welcome to day 2. We're on track 2 on ability at Build Your Consulting Business Now Summit 2020. And we just have a little housekeeping here. Top of the hour, we're going to run for 45 minutes. About 40 minutes into it, we'll be getting to a juicy offer at the end from Shannon today. Don't want to miss that. Turn off your cell phones and just be present for this opportunity to learn from Shannon. And when we do that, we'll get so much more from our time invested here. And so with that, I'd like everyone to take a deep breath, let it out, open your mind and your heart to what we're about to learn today. And we want to welcome Shannon Fisher from Next Level Greatness. Isn't that cool? Doesn't it feel good already? She has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years in the health and wellness industry. I know she's a mom, and she's done several pivots in her life, as many of us have. And she is a certified John Maxwell coach. And what she's going to share with us today is how to create a growth plan. We all start our businesses or are about to start our businesses, and we think, and that's where we're looking as well. We're starting, but where do we need to go from there? And I'm going to say, Shannon, just help us out here. Where are we going next with a growth plan?
So great. Well, thank you, Bonnie. I'm excited to be here. Welcome, everyone. I hope that you've already had some really juicy nuggets that you've already learned from today. I can guarantee you've already learned some really powerful things that you can start to apply to your life. And you know, the cool thing is when you start to hear these kind of aha moments, it's good to hear them, and it's good to kind of write them down. But it's really important to kind of get into action and to really start to apply that to your world. And today I'm going to just really share with you how you can kind of go to the next level. It's definitely been a word, I think, that's kind of been in our language, especially with what's happening in our kind of our global scale, what's happening right now in the world, is everyone's trying to figure out what is that next level? Where am I supposed to go next? And today I have an opportunity just to share with you a philosophy that I've created when I've looked back at different points in my career where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level. What was I doing in order to kind of reach that kind of next mountaintop? And today I'm excited to kind of share that with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me one moment here. There we go. I'll start from the top. All righty. Okay, so there's a fun picture of me. All right, so this is what I love, is what is your current identity? You know, when we think of identity, sometimes you may identify with being a business owner, right? Or you may identify with being, you know, right now you may be still sitting as an employee in the corporate world, but you have a dream or you have a vision, and that's why you've tuned in, because you're like, I need to learn some skills. I need to figure out what's next. I need to know what's missing in my life, but you kind of still identify in this one sector. And sometimes that transitional point, as I say, kind of being able to cross the bridge, can kind of get us kind of wrapped up, or we kind of stall a little bit in really making that finish line, or really being able to cross that bridge. And so right now, I would just love for you to kind of just take a moment. And Bonnie, I love your energy, you know, just kind of breathe it in. Like, what is your current identity? You know, do you identify as that business owner? Do you identify as an employee? Are you identifying with someone who's in transition? And, or some parents and some people identify themselves as, you know, I'm a mom, you know, and sometimes it's just like, oh, there's Grace's mom, or there's Griffin's mom, or, you know, there's Gabe's mom, or sometimes you identify with being, you know, a husband or a wife. And so all of these identities can sometimes, they shape us, right? Isn't it true that they shape who we are? And as you're making the leap to that next level, there is a shift that can happen in your identity. And the same thing happens not only in your career, but the same thing can happen in your health. The same thing can happen in your finances. The same thing can happen in your environment, is that we start to identify and associate with different things, different levels of success, different levels of failure. We create an identity roadmap around that. And today is all about taking you to that next level, but even more so identifying with where we've been, so in order we can leap forward to that next place. So this is my favorite question. You know, what if you could actually, just for a moment, like shed it all away, you know, you had kind of that magic wand and you're like, okay, what if I could choose to step into my next level of greatness? What would that look like? You know, what would it look like to just be able to kind of like that world map, right? Where you're like, oh, if I could get on a plane right now and travel somewhere, that's where I'd want to go. And that's the hotel I'd want to stay, or this is the beach that I'd like to walk across. You know, that kind of big vision of what it could look like. You know, could you really step into this opportunity to not just get started in your consulting business, but just champion it right from the get-go, because that's what you're thinking. It's not about, well, I got to work. I spoke to a woman last night and she's beautiful. She has this big vision and she does really cool things with her hair. And she's like, you know, I have a vision of really wanting to, you know, be this top end hairstylist. And I said, isn't it funny how we're conditioned to think that you have to take this long road in order to climb the scale? And I said, all you can do is just, what if you just imagined that it happened now? Almost reverse engineer it. So these moments in time where we can actually claim something and bring it forward. And yes, there's work that needs to be done, but casting that vision of just imagining what is possible is oftentimes the very first step. So it is time to go to the next level. I will promise you that no matter where you are in your life right now, we can all level up, we can raise our standards, and we can really start to kind of go after our dreams and goals in a way that maybe we've been letting ourselves off the hook. All right, so here's a little bit about who this crazy woman is who's chatting with you already this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, whenever you are listening to this. But as Bonnie beautifully stated, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I've been speaking for, I don't know, however long, forever. I think I was like, I was a little girl that got the public speaking award. Yeah, I'm those weirdos that love to be at the front of the stage. But I love transformation. I've been in health and wellness. I was actually, you know, to talk about my pivots, I started, my parents have both been entrepreneurs. And so that was always kind of in my blood. And I went through school to become a massage therapist, which was great. I'm a registered massage therapist here in Ontario, now retired. And I did that for quite a few years. Then I actually stumbled into network marketing. And that has really been for the last 15 years. It's hard to believe. 15 years I've been coaching, mentoring, and really helping people transition from, you know, what they've been doing in, you know, their plan A, and then looking at a plan B. And it's been a really great opportunity for people to kind of gain some footing in the space of entrepreneurship. And then I added, because why not add more, an opportunity to kind of really grow my leadership and transformational company called Five Fish Leadership. And that has been kind of that next level where I, you know, take my John Maxwell training, I take the years of entrepreneurship, and I kind of blend it all together to really help people go to the next level, whatever that is in their world. So, and again, this is just who I am. This is me on stage, and this is my family. And I honestly believe for me is that family for me is the oxygen for my entrepreneurial spirit. You know, if it wasn't for them, they are my driver. They are what kind of gets me going every day. The moments that I'm like, I'm exhausted, I don't know if I want to do something today. They've definitely been that kind of spirit that runs through my soul that, you know, allows me to bring my gifts to the world. And sometimes it's important, and not sometimes, it is important no matter where you are, especially in entrepreneurship, because there's many ups and downs, as you may have already felt, is that you having an anchor, having something that no matter what, you are never going to give up because of this. And for me, I had to anchor my entrepreneurial spirit to my family, you know, because it was like, if Shannon gives up, who else loses? And I, you know, I think as a mother, I was like, I'm never going to give up on my family. So I attached those two together. And that's what we created our Five Fish brand. So it's the five of us, and I'm not having any more children. had 3 of them in 3.5 years, and grew a multiple 6-figure income in 8 years. And so you can, if you are a parent and you have young children, I can tell you, you can do it. And it's all about managing your mind and really staying in the step that you're in. And yes, we have dogs and a bearded dragon and chickens and guinea pigs and a pony. We have a small funny farm. So with all of that being said, what I do know is that I still struggle sometimes. And I think it's also important to identify is why do people struggle? Like, why do we struggle in life? You know, why do we go through these moments where it's like, why is it just not working? And the other day, I'm putting together a program, which I'll talk to you about after, but it really kind of hit me. And John Maxwell wrote this really great book called The 15 Laws of Invaluable Growth. And he was kind of going through this place where he was kind of reaching the next level and been given really great opportunity, but he was struggling. And someone asked him, they said, "Hey, John, do you have a growth plan?" And he was like, well, yeah. And he really went through things like, well, I'm reaching a lot of people. And his answer was based on his results and his activity, but not based on improvement. Right? He was really talking about, I had no plan on getting better, but I was just kind of spinning my wheels. And I was wondering, why am I getting stuck? Like, why am I struggling in this place? And one of the really, powerful things that another gentleman had said to him was that you can always, and I'm going to just read it. He said, "It occurred to me that if you focus on your goals, you may hit your goals, but that does not guarantee your growth. But if you focus on your growth, you will grow and you will always hit your goals." And so it's really about living into this growth-based mindset and, creating the plan and creating your growth plan really allows you to continue to walk up to the top of the mountain and then gracefully scale back down to then conquer your next mountain. And I'll share with you, there's been moments in my career where I've been at the top of the mountain and I worked freaking hard to get to the top of the mountain. And I know that there's moments where you have definitely worked really hard to get to the top of the mountain. And I don't know about you, but there was moments at the top of the mountain that I felt alone. I felt scared. I definitely not feel happiness, that I was like, I just climbed to the top of the mountain. I should just be feeling on top of the world. And I did for a moment. I'm not going to say it didn't. It was definitely victorious. But the longer you stay up there, it's top, right? It's not, there's only so many people that can be up there. And so it was, what I identified with was that my growth had also stopped. And it was a cue for me to realize that I may have clicked off all the dream vision boards that I had, but I really hadn't really synced in my growth plan, and I hadn't gone back to reevaluate it. And at the moment I went back to reevaluate my growth plan, I was like, aha, right. So I can scale down the mountain and I can choose to go up another one. And there's moments in time, and I would definitely suggest, if you have a methodology and you're consulting, or things that you've done in your life that have proven successful, and someone has said, write that stuff down, like this is gold. And you're like, oh, everybody does that. I will guarantee you not everybody does. And sometimes your plan in life, your success may feel like common sense to you, but I'm telling you, it could be someone else's survival guide. And so write it down, how you got up to the top, how you got back down. And today I'm going to share with you my philosophy that I hope that will help you kind of get to that next level in your life. So it is about creating growth. It is about setting it as a priority. And as I already mentioned, it's, working hard does not guarantee success, and hope, as much as it's great to have hope, it's unfortunately just not a strategy. So we're going to go through this rise up philosophy that I created. So I went back when I was at the top of the mountain and I was just feeling really stuck. And my health actually started to deteriorate. And it's really hard when you're in a health and wellness and you've been in health forever and your health starts to spin, right? And a lot of times our body can manifest a lot of issues when we're not in a state of contribution or a state of growth. And Tony Robbins has often said that, when people look at happiness, it's usually when they're growing. It's usually when either they're in a growth plan, or sometimes people just identify that with like, well, my business is growing. Well, that's great. but are you growing? Are you actually growing on the inside? Are you doing something different that's creating a new result? Are you really reevaluating? And, you know, when I looked at this, I'm like, oh, when I kind of created that next level and shifted, what did I do? And it was amazing. It kind of fell upon me. I was in this moment of being fearless. And when you look at the word fear, you can, you know, look at it and say, well, that's going to hold me back. And so I was like, well, what would fearless mean? And I saw an acronym once that said face everything and rise. Face everything and rise. And I was feeling really fearful. And I thought, I got to change my mindset. And so then rise was born. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what did I do? I reflect, I innovate, I strategize, and I execute. And you can take this to anything in your life. You could take it to our marketing strategy. You could take it to your health. You could take it to anything. And using these 4 steps are really great to kind of just give your head like a bit of like stop the spin and move forward, right? Because sometimes we just spin in this vortex and we procrastinate for too long. And that doesn't feel good either. So reflect, innovate, strategize, and execute. So we're going to talk about how to use that and a few other steps to kind of really create this growth setting framework. So where do we go, right? It's like, okay, this is like big pie in the sky. If you could choose right now, you know, just one area of your life over the next 90 days, I can tell you that even if you're looking at, you know, wanting to make huge leaps and bounds in your company, there may be an area in this, one of these areas or one of these spheres, I should say, that's actually creating some turmoil. And if you don't spend some time to address it, you may either hit the goal, but then think other things are going to unravel, unfortunately. So this is about kind of creating your North Pole. And I live in Canada, and so we're close to the North Pole ish. And so it's just that opportunity to kind of be like, what is your guiding light? What is your guiding path? And so when you look at this, it's an opportunity for you to kind of just to reflect and to say, okay, where could I go? Like, where am I at in each of these areas? So you can look at your emotional well-being. So this is like how are you feeling? How are you managing stress? Physically, you know, are you working out? Are you drinking water? Are you using nutrition? Relationships, you know, are your relationships solid? Or are you around people that are constantly negative and drowning you out, that you just can't move forward? You know, right now in your career, are things going the way that you want them to? Or are you stuck, right? So it's an important thing to identify with. Intellectual, personal development. Literally, I was introduced to personal development right after I finished school, and it was by far the greatest blessing I've ever been given. You know, a lot of people finish school, they may take an extra thing here and there, but they've stopped their learning. And I was never really a reader. I hated reading books through school. And now my library is full of them because I had to find what was really going to help me kind of grow to that next level. And our environment, you know, I always say environment is stronger than willpower. And so if your house is a mess or your internal environment's a mess or whatever is going on is a mess, you know, you're going to struggle to want to take your life to the next level if that's not being addressed. Financial, this is a big one for a lot of people. You know, we're not really taught a lot of finances in school unless you've gone to school for that. And this can be, especially for a new entrepreneur, can be a bit of an unraveling piece because heck, you know, I don't know about you, but I didn't go through school and get a huge financial background. You know, I've had to seek really great CPAs and lawyers and people who have this zone of greatness within them to really help me understand this piece. And the last piece is your spiritual wellness. You know, where are you in your level of faith? And you can believe whatever you want to believe. But what I've definitely learned, and I remember there was a point in my career, well, that was actually quite low. And I was really struggling with claiming something and it was bugging me. Like I was at an event or I was speaking, I'm like, I don't know why this keeps coming up. And it was a clue to me that I really need to spend some time and figure this out. You know what happens when you spend time in one of these spheres and just give it a little bit more TLC? Everything in your life starts to kind of move forward. It's like, oh, that happened a little bit more effortlessly. And oh, that's really great. And oh, I just randomly attracted that. And what you may not acknowledge is the fact that you just gave one area of your life a little bit more nurturing and care, and it always has a ripple effect. So you can take a snapshot of this if you want. You can rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 where your things are at. And this is often just a great thing to do. I do this at least once or twice a year. to give myself a bit of a check-in, because it's not something we typically think about. It's like we carry on, we're busy in our career, life is going on, but burnout is a real thing, and burnout can really stop people dead in their tracks. And I'm just a firm believer that if you don't have your health and things aren't going well in your wellness, you could be having the greatest business ever, but the moment that's taken away from you, there's not a lot left over. So this is an important piece to just spend some time to consider. And here are some questions as we go through this. So once you have your area, you have your little sphere, and you know where you're going, and I'm just watching time here, you may want to ask yourself some questions like, what are some of my proudest accomplishments this year? You know, it's been an interesting year, and I look at my own life and I'm like, there's some really great things that happened. You know, I spent more time with my children. I was really able to kind of slow down to speed up. It's an important thing to do. And I think a lot of us have felt that. What lessons have you learned? Have you learned that maybe you're a little bit more resilient than you thought? You know, maybe you have a little bit more perseverance than you actually ever thought that you could have. Or what were some of your failures and setbacks? It's important to learn from them. You know, sometimes we dust ourselves off too quick, right? And we're like, oh yeah, okay, we'll just dust that off. And we don't take time to learn from them. Failure is, you know, if you choose to fail forward, is where really most of your growth will actually happen. You know, if the things are going good, things are going good, right? And if you ever have a chance to read Jim Collins' book, From Good to Great, or The Mighty Have Fallen, these are great books to always have in the back of your mind, because sometimes failure can be a great opportunity for us to for ourselves to go to the next level. So the next up in our philosophy is we innovate, right? So we reflect, and now we innovate. This is the fun part, right? This is that magic wand. Like, what can I do? What would it look like if I want to take my marketing strategy to the next level, or if I really wanted to spend more time with my finances, or if I really wanted to, you know, take my intellectual component, my sphere, and go to that next level? And what could I claim? You know, what could happen? And what I do know is when you have clarity in this one area, things start to show up faster than you can think, right? It's like, whoa, wow, I didn't really think that could happen. And magic can be created in 90 days. Like, it doesn't take, this isn't something that takes like years and years and years. But when you go a little bit deep, it's amazing. It's like, oh, okay, like I just feel better because of the action and the success tips that I took. So again, this is an opportunity to innovate, be creative, and really cast that vision. And it could be just to now, to the end of this year, or you could go bigger to like, what would 5 years from now look like, right? And reverse engineer back what you want that to be. So I used to be a goal-driven person. I don't know about you, but if you put in the chat at some point, you know, if you are all about goals, right? And that's where I realized I had to shift from goals to growth. And they're both important, but in intention of growth. And so when we look at this outcome vision, this big vision in this kind of innovation piece, it is that idea of like really over-promising and under-delivering on yourself, right? It's like, I'm going to put my stake in the ground and I'm going to go for this. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. And that's okay. It's not about like taking it out and throwing it away. It's like, no, you pick it up and you put it out again, because we don't know how fast time can happen. And sometimes we can collapse time, and sometimes things take longer. That's what we don't have control over. But the vision is very, very important. So how do we collapse time? We set progress goals, or growth, I should say. Progress growth is about habits. And when you have, you know, if I think of Brandon Bouchard, who's all about habits, right? So when you control your daily habits, it's the consistency. Consistency leaves clues, right? So if you are wanting to make a pivot, or you're wanting to really move your business to the next level, doing it every once in a while is not going to work, right? But doing a little bit every day really creates the strong outcome. It's like drinking water, right? Like, it's not good to, it's like brushing your teeth. You don't just do it on a Monday and then pick your toothbrush back up on a Saturday and expect to have like these beautiful teeth. It's what we do every single day that really start to kind of build into that long-term vision. So you need to have the vision, and then you need to have the habits in order to create that innovation and really get into that strategy piece. The next piece, the next pillar of this growth kind kind of framework is aligning your network. And this is important for many reasons, because being around, and that's why I love summits like this, is that you have an opportunity to be with so many like minds that are sharing this wisdom with you, and you get an opportunity to collaborate with like-minded people, because it can feel lonely if you're not collaborating. Even as an entrepreneur at times, when you don't have a circle of people around you that do a couple of things. They challenge you, but they also cheer. And I don't mean challenge you in the sense of like putting you down, but I mean challenge you into stretch into your greatness, like to really go into that zone of genius that is within all of us. Those are the people you want to be around. And so when you surround yourself with them through books or audios or summits or coaches or people in your environment, it really will allow you to go to that next level. If you don't, it's harder. And you can take someone who's maybe in a neutral, and it's really good to do this exercise where you kind of identify some people and you're like, okay, well, these ones are really positive, and these ones are more neutral, and these are kind of the negative Nellies. And if you can move a neutral to more of a positive based on your vision, great. I would say you can talk to your negative Nellies and let them know what you're doing, but you don't need their permission. And if anything, it's an opportunity for you to understand their perspective and for you not to judge, but for you to really practice gratitude and graciousness and just love them where they're at. And maybe over time, they start to capture your vision, but it's not about moving them from a negative to your cheerleader. Maybe they may move to neutral. So again, it's just being aware. You can't control people, but what you can do is surround yourself with the right people so that you can continue to move forward. The next one here is setting intentions. So this is important. So we have our philosophy, we kind of reflect, we innovate, we catch the vision, we have an idea of what our goal is going to be, our growth, our progress habits, right? We've aligning our networks. Well, intentions are great because, heck, I don't know about you, but neural pathways, like we often think the things that we thought yesterday. And so it can be hard sometimes to be like, well, okay, I've got all this stuff set up, but like I'm still not getting anywhere. So it's like having an alarm clock, and you can even set it up as that, where you set yourself an intention every day to do that task, to do that habit. And over time, if you're reminded about it, it will start to happen. You're creating a new neural pathway in your brain. And at first, it's like a bit of a dirt road. And then over time, it will turn into a freeway. But without putting these little mechanisms in play, again, we wonder why people struggle, right? Because we're not doing the work to set our minds up. And I say from the right ear to the left ear can be some of the hardest work that we can do. But when we manage our mind and we stay in this growth-based mindset, it's incredible what can really truly happen in your world. It is, in my opinion, it is the greatest work you will ever do in your entire life, is just continuing to work on yourself and continuing to grow. Next piece is that we all need a feedback mechanism, right? We need some accountability. We need an opportunity like, did I hit the target? Did I actually do what I said I was going to do? And that can be done in many, many ways, from having an accountability partner to just setting time in your day. I often personally find having an accountability partner really puts the rubber to the road. Having a coach, having a mentor that you check in with. Sometimes it's like that appointment. Like, I don't know about you, but going to the gym, I need to have it in my schedule. Like I could wake up and be like, I'm going to go to the gym today. I'm going to work out today. And if I don't have it in my schedule, it just doesn't get done. So this is a feedback mechanism that allows you to adjust and allows you to really kind of say, okay, am I on track? Right? And where am I in my habits? Am I getting closer to my vision? Do I need to reflect a little bit more? Do I need to innovate? Do I need to strategize? What's my next execution point? So this is an opportunity for you to have that in play. And the last one here is managing decision fatigue. So I don't know about you, but a lot of people don't talk about this. It is important in a growth-based mindset, is that if you don't have an opportunity to manage your decision fatigue, and let me tell you this, and Bonnie, maybe you can relate to this. We get to the end of the week and you live in beautiful Kelowna and there's beautiful restaurants there, right? And all of a sudden you get to like Friday and it's like, honey, where do you want to go for dinner? And it's like, I don't know, you pick. And he goes, no, honey, I asked you, where do you want to go for dinner? And you're like, I don't know, you pick. And he's like, I don't want to pick. You pick. No, you pick. No, you pick. No, you pick. And you end up either A, not going anywhere and flopping on the couch with a glass of wine and not like ordering pizza, or, you know, sometimes where some people may end up in a fight, which is, I hope that doesn't happen. But when you get to that point, that it's a muscle. Making decisions is actually a muscle, and we don't think about it. We don't think that it is a muscle, but it is a muscle. And so if you're getting to the end of the week, or even sometimes at the end of the day, it's like, I cannot make another decision. You know, some nights I'm like, I don't know what we're going to have for dinner. Like I'm done. My brain's made way too many decisions. That is fatigue. And it's important to identify it and to not think anything's wrong with you, but to realize that, okay, I need to rest, I need to repair, and I just need to give myself an opportunity to not get into burnout. If you find that this is carrying on, and it doesn't happen just at the end of the week, but you start your week that way and it carries it through, you may not give yourself an opportunity to have flex time. This is what actually introduced to me by my coach, and I absolutely love it, is that when you can manage decision fatigue by adding flex time in. So if you're just getting started, start now. I remember the first part of my career as a massage therapist, I just took everything and anything that I could. And then by the time I would get to Christmas and holidays is when what? You get sick, right? You pick up that virus or you pick up whatever because you've pushed it too hard. And so this is an opportunity where you can say, okay, I'm going to give myself some freedom. I'm going to give myself some creativity space. Because if you don't do that, it's really hard to go the next. You can't reflect when you're just like constantly making decisions 24/7. So it's, again, it's an awareness piece to allow yourself to be like, maybe I need to just book in time off where you can put in extra appointments, or it's an opportunity for you to be like, this is the time where I get to be creative. This is the time that I actually get to innovate in my company. Because if you don't put the time in for that piece, it's really hard to go to the next level. So this is an opportunity for you to do that. All right, so I know we're coming to a close here, so I just wanted to throw this slide back up here. I know for some of you may have some questions as well, but again, just to reflect on the Rise Up philosophy. So we reflect, we innovate, we strategize, and we execute, right? So it's this opportunity to kind of go through it, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, that happened. Okay, what could I choose? What would be the strategy that would be needed? And then what is my accountability and action steps that need in order for that to happen, right? So it's important just to kind of go through that. And this is the 5-step framework. Now, I know for some of you might be like, oh my gosh, Shannon, you flew through that. And I have like deer in the headlights. Don't worry. I have something for you, because I know that this stuff is, for some of you, maybe brand new. For some of you, it might be an opportunity to be like, oh, right, I forgot about that. Or you've had that nudge and it's like, oh, shoot, I really need to look into that. Because it is important, right? It is important for us to spend some time here. So it's also important to know what is stopping you, right? It's important to be able to identify and going, I'm not getting out of my own way because of X, Y, and Z. So that is what's really can happen. So it's just one of those important pieces to be aware of. So Bonnie, I want to turn it back to you. I don't know if we have some Q&A. I do have the offer sitting here that we can go through, but I wanted to.
Let's, I just wanted to, first of all, say so much juicy information, but the one thing, there was a couple things that caught my ear during your presentation. First of all, my goodness, girl, 3 kids in 3.5 years. Woo, you're a busy girl.
2.5. It was 2.5. 2.5 years.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then, and then you just said you were doing you said your business in 8 years. It was like you grew your business in 8 years or something like that. It was really, I was trying to catch on to it there. You did so much in a short amount of time. What I'm hearing you say is that when you plan for growth, then you can meet your goals. But if, you know, the whole thing is, I've never thought about it that way before. I'd always heard plan for your goals, your goals, your goals. But then really, if you don't know how to get there, it's like saying, get to Florida, but how am I going to get there? You know, oh, I could go to LA first, or maybe Colorado, or, you know, back to Canada. I really get it. The goal is maybe Florida. Greg and I did that. We went across the U.S., catty corner, and but we could have gone in 1,000 different ways. But by planning is the growth part. It was kind of like a map to me saying, oh, this is where we're going. And you know where you're going to go, but how are you going to get there? So you have to plan for that growth. I've never thought about it that way. So thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
And
You're welcome.
yeah, that was just so, so clarifying, that particular part of your whole program. And this sounds interesting, but did you just like, you went through a process yourself and then you decided to create this consulting business to growth itself? And I'd never ever met anyone else that has done that before, so kudos to you on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just is also like, wow.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then you brought up another really good point of the dinner decision. I did that just the other night. I don't care. I can't think of anything. And normally I wrote a food column for years and I taught cooking classes and all this stuff. But sometimes in the evening after you've worked all day, it's like, I don't know. And what do I want for dinner? Even if I had all the ingredients there, nothing was gelling. And even going out to eat, it's like, I don't know. You know? So what I heard you say is that could be fatigue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly can't make a decision. And like, should I go left and Albuquerque? You know, I don't know. Should I? And so by having a consultant such as yourself, you could be a guide, I guess a guide to help you through that fatigue zone to get to the other side, because we're often fatigued maybe because we aren't making the income that we want and we're not meeting the goals that we want. Would you expand on that just a little bit? We've got plenty of time here. So
yeah, you know, and I thank you for that. It's so true that there's,
and if you want, you can stop your screen share and we'll just keep chatting away. There we go.
Yeah, you know, I think that's the thing, is that oftentimes, you know, when we're in states of fatigue, which often happens, like, you know, we're just burning the candle at both ends, it can be really difficult to know where do I go next. And, you know, with a lot of the clients that I work with, it's a real thing. I always say, stop the spin, right? Because it's just like, okay, where do I go next? And there's all these things that need to get done. And what is the biggest priority right now? And so having that growth-based mindset, just to kind of narrow it down to be like, okay, this is the thing that I need to do right now, is an opportunity to kind of decrease that level of fatigue. And to really, it's also about self-care, right? It's that piece of saying, okay, I need to just maybe counterbalance what's going on right now so that I can have that ability to take that next step.
Do you find with your clients, is there a certain point in their business, like we're talking hopefully to a lot of new entrepreneurs, new consultants, but even mid-career and late career, where do you find a lot of people where they really need help?
Everywhere. I'm like, do we not always need help?
Well, I just thought maybe there was some more. I guess at the beginning it would be a great place to start, because if you don't have the growth plan, you could, you know, just really flounder a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what really I've seen in my career, is that, you know, when I kind of got going, I was doing it on my own. And I had a really great mentor that once said, if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. And it was that moment where I was like, oh yeah, I am doing it alone. That's not good. And so it was an opportunity for me to realize, like, okay, and so I've always personally am invested in coaching. I've always had other mentors around me. And I honestly feel that if I hadn't have had them around me to kind of be like, to be able to, like, Shannon, you need to slow down. Like, okay, so like you're in the stage right now. Cause I'm like, no, I'm hungry. I'm going for it. And 3 babies in 2.5 years while I was growing the network marketing company, I was traveling, like it was a bit of a blur. If I didn't have someone else to help me with the checks and balances, I honestly don't know if my marriage would have survived. I don't know if I would have had the deepened connection with my kids. And so it is important to have somebody else that can spot your blind spots, that can help, as you said, like be that guide. You know, it's kind of like that quarterback that's just like, no, like, okay, right now, you actually just need to take the day off. Like, cut it out. Unless you're like a heart surgeon and someone's going to die, you're going to be okay, right? Like you can go a couple of hours, you know, and the world is not going to end. And I think sometimes, you know, especially when we're getting started and there's a lot on the line, you know, if there's a lot of, there usually is a lot on the line, it can be hard. It can be hard to take your foot off the gas a little bit. And so I was, you know, I think it was just being more aware of just different things of like, plan for the hit by the bus scenario, you know, like plan, like if X is going to happen, well, how would I handle it? Like, what would I do if that showed up? Like, what if I was to have to declare bankruptcy? What would I do? How would I act? How would I show up in that moment? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, I'd start over again. I would take everything that I've learned and pivot and do something new. Okay. So, all right, I can take that limiting belief or whatever it might be, and just push it aside, or just know that there's a plan. And that's that growth plan, right? It's that saying, okay, I trust myself to know that either I would find someone or I would figure it out. Be resourceful.
You talked just now, that was really profound. You talked about pivoting several times in your own life. And so actually within this growth plan, you'd actually plan for a pivot.
Yeah, you plan to pivot. Always. Plan to pivot. Yeah.
I think in this last 9 months or so, many people have pivoted on so many levels. And for some, it's been easier than others. My husband and I were in the middle of a big project, you know, a big documentary, and we were in Los Angeles, and suddenly 48 hours, so actually 36 hours before the event was to start, we'd planned for over 6 months. We'd spent many hours preparing, and suddenly, oh, we're not having it. And we went, and it was interesting because we literally did what you said. We came back to Canada. We were sitting in our motorhome saying, what are we going to do when we grow up? And all of a sudden opportunities just started showing up. And but we had to sit and be quiet for a little bit. And so I appreciate that you were sharing that for people. Sometimes it is turning the phone off and going down to the beach or something at the Okanagan Lake, you know, just, okay, stop everything. And then you can actually think more clearly. And I believe you really brought that out, that sometimes what is the right thing is to do nothing or no thing. Yeah.
I agree. There's power in pausing.
Yeah. Oh, I like that one. Power and pausing. You got to use that one. Power and pausing. So we have a couple minutes here, and we want to make sure that everyone knows your offer, and Andrew will place that so that we'll be able to see that. So everyone that's seeing this right now can take advantage of that. It's the amazing wheel, is it not, that you're sharing?
Yeah, so what you can have access to is really today's presentation. I've built it into a PDF, so you can have an opportunity to kind of work through those pieces, because I know a lot of times it's like, okay, this is making sense, and you're rapidly taking notes. So there's an opportunity for you to just download it and just have it in front of you and to kind of go through it. You know, part of my program is really where we kind of dive into the Rise Up philosophy. We take the 15 laws of invaluable growth and we really extrapolate it. So that is a program that's starting on Tuesday. Starts next week.
Fabulous. Yeah. Well, we so appreciate your presentation today, your participation in the Build Your Consulting Business Now Summit 2020. And we look forward to staying connected. That is for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now, do you want me to put that in the chat where people can go to find it?
Yes, that would be wonderful. And then also, I know Andrew will be placing it so that we'll all be able to get to that as well.
I'll be added to a list of the whole conference, be able to see your offer as well on a PDF format, I believe. So everyone will be able to get a chance to see it as well. Yeah.
There you go there. So if you go to the, just Shannon, don't always remember to put the A in there. ShannonAFisher.com/next level greatness is where you can actually download the workbook. And I have a little webinar similar to what we went through today. It's just in case if you forgot, or you can watch it again here, which is awesome. But it's an opportunity for you to get that information. And then if you're interested in the program, it's there too. So it's just ShannonAFisher.com/next level. Just forget the greatness and you can get the program.
Thank you so much. And everyone, we that just enjoyed this presentation and people who are seeing it a little later because they were on another track. We'll take a little break here and we'll start with